My wife said, a real husband would pay for my dream wedding redo. I said, then find one. I called a lawyer. She laughed until the retainer email hit. By Sunday, her mother was at my door, her friends were calling me cruel, and my wife was begging for the marriage she mocked. Original post: I'm Grant, 35M. My wife Aubrey is 32F. We had been married 6 years and together almost 9. We lived in a small brick house outside Nashville, Tennessee, a house I bought 2 years before the wedding and spent most weekends fixing with my own hands. I work as an electrical project manager. Not glamorous. Good money, steady hours, emergency calls when job sites go sideways. Aubrey worked part-time for a boutique event company and spent more time studying wedding reels than planning events. I thought it was harmless. People have hobbies. Hers was flower arches, champagne walls, and matching robes. Our actual wedding had been simple. A church hall, barbecue. My uncle's friend played music. Her aunt made the cake. We were broke, young, and happy. At least I thought we were happy. Then her coworker got married at a vineyard in Franklin. 3 photographers, drone footage. Aubrey came home different. For 3 months, every conversation turned into how she never got her real wedding. She said our wedding looked like a retirement party. She said she felt robbed. She said a man who truly loved his wife would want to give her the day she deserved. I tried to be patient. I suggested an anniversary trip to Charleston. I suggested a nice dinner with family. I even said we could renew vows in a small way, maybe $5,000 if we saved for it. She showed me a spreadsheet for $28,000. Venue deposit, floral installation, live painter, second dress, makeup trial, videographer, late-night snack bar, custom cocktail napkins. I asked calmly where that money was supposed to come from. She looked at me like I had failed a test. From you, obviously. I said we had a roof repair coming, my truck needed brakes, and we were still paying off her dental work from last year. She rolled her eyes and said I always made everything practical. Like stability was some kind of disease. Then came the sentence. A real husband would pay for my dream wedding redo. I laughed once because I genuinely thought she was joking. She did not laugh. She crossed her arms and said maybe she needed to find out what being married to a real husband felt like. Something inside me went very quiet, not angry, not sad, just quiet. I said, then find one. She blinked. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table and searched for divorce attorneys in Davidson County. She smirked and said, oh please, dramatic much. I did not answer. I booked a consultation for the next morning and paid a $4,000 retainer from my separate account. Separate because my dad once told me never to put every dollar in one bucket. Best advice he ever gave me. Aubrey went out that night with her friends. Before leaving, she said, enjoy your little tantrum. I hope you grow up before I come home. I slept in the guest room, not on the couch. The guest room, clean sheets, door locked. The next morning, I met Cameron, my attorney. I brought mortgage paperwork, bank statements, tax returns, photos of the house before marriage, repair receipts, and screenshots. Cameron looked through everything and said, this is going to be annoying, not impossible. That was my new favorite phrase, annoying, not impossible. When I got home, Aubrey was sitting at the kitchen island, still in pajamas, holding her phone like it had personally betrayed her. You retained a lawyer, I said yes. She asked if I was insane. I said no. I was married to someone who told me to spend $28,000 proving I was real, then suggested replacing me if I did not. Her face changed. The smirk disappeared first. Then the outrage tried to cover the panic. You're ending a marriage over one sentence. No, Aubrey. I'm ending a marriage because that sentence finally explained the last year. She started crying, but it felt rehearsed. Hand over mouth. Big eyes, checking whether I watched. I made coffee. That made her angrier than yelling would have. Update 1, 5 days later, 5 days later, the flying monkeys arrived. First was Kelsey, her best friend. She texted me from a number I had never saved. Grant, I know Aubrey hurt your feelings, but marriage means fighting for each other. You don't just call a lawyer because your wife wants to feel special, I replied once. Marriage also means not threatening to replace your husband because he won't drain savings for a second wedding. Please don't contact me about this again. She sent 3 more paragraphs. I did not read them. Then came Mason, one of Aubrey's cousins, who apparently became a marriage counselor overnight. He called me selfish, cold, financially controlling, and insecure. I sent him 1 screenshot of the wedding budget and 1 screenshot of Aubrey saying maybe she needed a real husband. He replied, "Okay, I didn't know all that." Amazing how quickly wisdom retreats when evidence shows up. Aubrey tried a softer approach that night. She cooked dinner for the first time in months. Pasta, salad, candles. She wore the blue dress I liked and said maybe we could talk without lawyers. I sat down. I listened. For 20 minutes, she explained the redo was not really about money. It was about feeling chosen, other women getting celebrated, my emotional limits, my family's cheapness, my inability to dream big. I asked one question. Are you sorry for what you said? She paused too long. Then she said, I'm sorry you took it that way. I stood up, put my plate in the sink, and went back to the guest room. The next morning, she booked a venue tour anyway. I found out because the venue emailed both of us a confirmation. She had used our shared email from the original wedding. Same account we used for bills and insurance. The deposit was $2,500. I called the venue and said I did not authorize any booking. They said no payment had been processed yet, only a hold. I told them not to process any payment in my name or from any card connected to me. Then I froze the joint credit card. Aubrey lost her mind. She came into my home office while I was reviewing permits and said I was humiliating her. I said no. I was stopping her from spending marital money after being notified of pending divorce. Cameron had already warned me to keep things clean. That word pending hit her harder than divorce. Pending meant real. That afternoon, her mother Vanessa showed up at the door. Vanessa never came over without calling. She arrived with a casserole, which meant someone died or someone was about to be pressured. She asked if we could sit like adults. I said sure. Aubrey sat beside her with puffy eyes and a victorious little look like she had brought backup. Vanessa started with the usual speech. Marriage is hard. Women need romance. Men can be stubborn. Then I handed her a printed copy of the budget and the screenshots. She read them silently. The room changed. Vanessa looked at Aubrey and said, You told me he emptied the savings and abandoned you. I almost laughed. Aubrey said he emotionally abandoned me. Vanessa tapped the paper. $28,000 is not emotion. For the first time all week, Aubrey had nothing ready. Vanessa apologized to me before she left, not dramatically, just quietly at the door. I'm sorry, Grant, I didn't know. After she left, Aubrey whispered, You turned my mother against me. I said no, I showed her your own words. She slept at Kelsey's that night. The house was quiet again. I slept 8 hours. Update 2, 3 weeks later, Aubrey stopped pretending this was about romance. She wanted control. Cameron had served her officially. Temporary financial orders were in place. No draining accounts, no new debt in both names, no selling property, basic stuff, adult stuff. Aubrey called it abuse. She posted a long, vague story online about men who punish women for wanting love. No names, but everyone knew. A photo of her hand without her ring. A caption about choosing herself. Comments from friends saying, You deserve the world, babe. One said he was never on your level. 2 hours later, a mutual friend named Dana texted me. Hey, just so you know, she's saying you canceled her health insurance and locked her out of the house. Neither was true. She was still on insurance. Her key still worked. She had chosen to stay at Kelsey's because drama needs an audience. I sent Dana the temporary order and a screenshot showing Aubrey still had access to the house. Dana replied, Wow, she left out a lot. That became the theme of the month. She left out a lot. Aubrey came by the house the next Saturday while I was replacing a broken fence panel. She arrived with 2 friends and a phone pointed at me. I could see the red recording dot. She said, "Grant, can you please explain why you're forcing your wife out of her home?" I kept drilling. She repeated it louder. I looked at the camera and said, "Aubrey, your key works. Your clothes are upstairs. You have not been forced out. You chose to stay with Kelsey after you tried to book a $28,000 wedding redo during a divorce filing." One of her friends lowered her phone. Aubrey hissed, "You're disgusting." I said, "Have a good afternoon." That video never got posted. Then she tried my job. I manage crews for commercial builds. Reputation matters. One Monday morning, my supervisor Wade called me into his office with the expression of a man dodging domestic nonsense. He said a woman called the main office claiming I was unstable, stealing from clients, and going through a mental breakdown. I asked if the call was recorded. It was. Cameron loved that. A cease and desist letter went out that afternoon. Aubrey denied calling until Cameron's letter mentioned the recording. Then she switched to saying she was worried about me. Funny thing, her worry sounded exactly like sabotage. That same week, I got promoted to senior project lead. Not because life was peaceful. Because I showed up, did the work, kept crews moving, and did not bring chaos onto job sites. Wade told me, "Whatever is going on at home, you're handling it better than most guys handle a delayed inspection." That meant more than I expected. Aubrey found out about the promotion through a coworker's post and texted from a new number. "Must be nice to celebrate while destroying your wife." I blocked it. The biggest blow-up happened at a bridal expo in Nashville. I was not there for floral arches. My sister Brianna runs a small catering business and needed help loading equipment. I carried trays in through a side entrance, and there was Aubrey at a booth with Kelsey, holding a brochure for vow renewal packages. She saw me and froze. Then she smiled. "Grant, perfect timing. Maybe you can tell everyone why you refuse to celebrate your marriage." I set the trays down. I said, "Because we're getting divorced." The booth went silent. Kelsey grabbed Aubrey's arm, but Aubrey shook her off. She said, "We are not getting divorced. You're just punishing me until I beg." I looked at her for a second, really looked. That was the truth, not the wedding, not romance. She thought divorce was a punishment phase, a storm I was creating so she would crawl back more obedient. I said, "I'm not punishing you. I'm leaving you." Her face crumpled, then hardened. She slapped a stack of brochures off the table. One hit my boot. A vendor called security. Brianna stepped between us and told Aubrey to leave me alone. Aubrey screamed that my whole family had poisoned me. Security escorted her out. Cameron added the incident to the file. The venue had cameras. The vendor was willing to provide a statement. The cease and desist became sharper. If she contacted my job again or staged another public confrontation, we would file for a protective order. For 8 days, silence. Beautiful, clean silence. Then her father, Russell, called. I almost did not answer, but Russell had always been decent to me, so I picked up. He said, "I'm not calling to pressure you, I'm calling to apologize." Her mother showed me the budget. I told Aubrey she was playing with matches in a dry field. I did not know what to say. He said, "I love my daughter, but she confuses being loved with being obeyed. That's not on you." I sat in my truck after that call for 10 minutes, not crying, not celebrating, just breathing. Final update. 3 months later, the divorce finalized 3 months after the kitchen table sentence. Not because Aubrey made it easy. She did not. She asked for half the house value, though I bought it before marriage and had records. She asked for alimony, though she could work full-time. She asked for reimbursement for emotional labor, which Cameron read twice before saying, "I have never billed that category." Mediation lasted 6 hours. Aubrey arrived in a cream dress that looked suspiciously bridal. Vanessa looked exhausted. Kelsey waited in the hallway like a backup singer for bad decisions. Aubrey cried during opening statements. She said she only wanted to feel treasured. She said I gave up too fast. She said a wife should not have to beg her husband to make her dreams come true. Cameron slid the printed budget across the table. Then the screenshots. then the recorded call to my workplace, then the bridal expo security statement. Dreams got very quiet after evidence arrived. The settlement was simple. She kept her car. I paid $7,000 to close out shared expenses and avoid dragging the fight another 6 months. She waived alimony. I kept the house, my retirement, my truck, my tools, and the furniture I had owned before marriage. We split the small joint savings, which was less impressive after her online shopping year. Total cost, including attorney fees, missed work, and settlement, was about $23,000, almost the same as her dream wedding redo. That irony was not lost on me. When we signed, Aubrey asked if we could speak alone. Cameron looked at me. I said 2 minutes, door open. She stood in the hallway, twisting her ring even though it was coming off that day. She said, "I didn't think you'd really leave." I said, "I know." That seemed to hurt more than anything else. She asked if I ever loved her. I said yes, completely. That was why I stayed as long as I did. Then she asked, "So this is it?" I said, "This is it." No speech, no final fight, no dramatic closure, just a hallway, bad lights, and a pen finishing what her sentence started. 2 weeks later, I moved her remaining boxes to Vanessa's garage with written permission and photos of every item: wedding albums, seasonal decorations, craft bins. The binder labeled Dream Redo. I placed that one on top. Vanessa hugged me before I left. She said, "I'm sorry it ended like this." I said, "Me too." And I meant it. Aubrey moved into Vanessa's guest room. I heard through Dana that she started telling people I was afraid of commitment, which was impressive after 6 years of marriage. She posted quotes about knowing your worth and never shrinking your dreams for small men. I did not respond. Small men, apparently, keep the mortgage current and the receipts organized. My life got quieter in the best way. I painted the kitchen green because Aubrey had always hated that color. I turned the spare room into a workout room. I hosted Brianna and her kids for pizza on Fridays. I took a weekend trip to Chattanooga with Wes and asked nobody's permission. At work, the senior project lead role stuck. More responsibility, more money, fewer emergency calls. Wade told me I looked younger. I said divorce is expensive skincare. I am not dating seriously yet. I went to dinner with someone named Natalie from a friend group, and it was nice. Easy. She asked what happened with my marriage, and I gave her the short version. My wife wanted a second wedding more than she wanted the first husband. Natalie winced and said, "That's a clean sentence." It was. That is what I learned. Some people do not want partnership. They want performance and proof on demand. Bigger gifts, bigger apologies, bigger sacrifices, and every time you provide one, the next test gets more expensive. Aubrey did not want a vow renewal. She wanted me to renew my obedience in front of an audience. I refused. Marriage is not supposed to be a hostage negotiation with centerpieces. Love should not require a deposit, a guest list, and a public humiliation clause. When someone says a real husband would do this, or a real wife would accept that, listen carefully. They are not defining love. They are defining control. I lost money. I lost time. I lost the version of marriage I thought I had, but I got my house quiet again. And quiet, after years of being tested, feels like winning. If you faced something similar, or you have an opinion on whether Grant handled this right, comment below. Please subscribe, like, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it.